Joining us now on the phone line is our good friend KT McFarland, Fox News national security analyst. How are you, KT?
Good, thank you.
Good to have you in here. Look, there's a book coming out written by Robert Gates, former defense secretary, a man who served over at the CIA, a man with a long and, I think, respected history in this town as a leader. And he's not too fond of some of the things that were going on during his time serving the Obama administration, and these are detailed in the book. You know Bob Gates. What is your thought about all this?
I've known Bob Gates for 40 years. We were both on Henry Kissinger's White House staff in the Nixon and Ford administrations, and he's honorable. He has great integrity. He loves this country. He's a man who is balanced. He doesn't judge on political or ideological grounds. And for him to say what he said about President Obama and Secretary Clinton, I think is, first of all, I think it's honest and it's probably true, and it is just chilling.
Yeah, it is, but are you surprised? Because, I mean, I've always sort of looked at him as a guy who you knew from time to time he didn't agree with what was going on, but he always was sort of the loyal soldier who saluted and executed and carried out, the desires of the administration, and there was never any leaks that were ever really attributed to him. Why do you think he feels so compelled to write about this now?
I think it's a mea culpa. The thing is, when you're sometimes in positions like that, and I think Colin Powell's another person, they feel that, if I stay on the inside, I can mitigate the damage rather than quit in anger, and then the situation only gets worse. So I think that's why he stayed. Why does he say now what he's saying? I think he wants to warn the country and set the record straight. To talk about political leaders like Clinton and Obama, who jokingly talked about their positions on the Iraq surge, opposing it on political grounds, not on the military merits, not on whether it was going to save American lives. And then President Obama with Afghanistan, his heart wasn't in it. He didn't believe it would work, but he did it because he wanted to look like he was tough, and he had to pick a war. He had to be against the Iraq war in the campaign because that was Bush's evil war, and he had to be for a war, or he would have been considered, a left-wing anti-war liberal. So the war he chose was Afghanistan, and yet committed America to a surge which he knew would fail. I mean, how do these people look at themselves in the mirror in the morning knowing that they're sending American women and men and women in uniform to die, to fight and die, and to bear the battle scars for their entire lives, and for their families to bear those battle scars, and to do it, why? For some political purpose, so they could get a few more poll points. I mean, I just don't see how anyone seeks to be a leader of this nation or any nation and has that kind of an attitude. That looks like, Nero fiddling while Rome burned. I just find it the single most despicable characteristic of any political leader. And in the United States, the greatest gift we have is that we have the most powerful military in the world, and yet it takes orders from its civilian leaders. Never in the history of the world has a powerful military stayed in a non-political position. And the sacred trust that our political leaders have is to not abuse that and not to send them into battle and into harm's way for a whim.
Well, and to that end, KT, I mean, I'm reading your latest article at FoxNews.com, The Sad Truth About America and Iraq. And one of the passages you say here, it was a war we initially won, then lost, then won again with the surge, and now with the latest news of what's unraveling there in Iraq, with al-Qaeda taking over in the Anbar province, where we fought so valiantly to win back during that surge, it looks like we've lost again, and I know that you have mixed feelings about our venture in Iraq, but looking back at how we got out, it sure seems like we've left Iraq in a mess.
We now realize with hindsight that Bush probably shouldn't have taken us into Iraq, and Obama shouldn't have taken us out. And Colin Powell was right. If you break it, you own it. The tragedy of Iraq is that we had finally, after treasure and blood and sacrifice, we had finally won it and turned it around. And yet the Obama administration, again, because it was Bush's war and they didn't want it to succeed, I think, based on Bob Gates' book almost, is that they decided to pull American forces out, to not give Iraq what it needed in military equipment to fight any kind of an insurgency.
And I get the president promised and won the presidency on the idea that we would pull out of Iraq, but he very clearly said we would do it in a responsible way. We would not leave, our allies there unprotected. The people who really literally risked their lives to fight with us against the insurgents, and yet it seems as though that's exactly what we've done.
Yeah, and again, how does anybody look at themselves in the mirror in the morning and have a conscience over decisions like that? I mean, I think at the end of the day, Bush made mistakes, Obama made mistakes, tragic mistakes that didn't have to be made. They made bad decisions. But what we are going to see in the Middle East is a 30-year war. It's going to be a generational war, Shiite versus Sunni. It's going to go country to country, tribe to tribe. It's going to be fueled by Arab oil money on both sides. And the only responsible thing the United States can do now is not to reengage in the Middle East, not to get involved in the Iraq War again, but to develop our own energy sources so that we are independent. We, the United States, we, the world, are independent of Middle East oil because it's not going to be available to us at a price we can afford with the consistency we need.
KT McFarland, it is always a pleasure.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, KT.